With us now from Capitol Hill is Delaware Senator Chris Coons, who sits on the Appropriations and Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, it's always great seeing you. I thank you so much for your time. Congress is running up against the clock, and are you seeing there's any possibility of an agreement there?
Thank you, Jose, for a chance to be on again. I am optimistic that we will resolve these issues this week and avoid a government shutdown. But frankly, one of the main sticking points here is border security issues under the Homeland Security Subcommittee. We've made great progress on my subcommittee that controls our State Department, foreign development and assistance programming. These are not easy issues, as you just said in the introduction. It's 70% of the funding of our entire government across our military, our State Department, Homeland Security. So these are complex issues, but the funding levels were agreed to a long time ago. We continue to see a challenging partisan political situation here where we are still fairly far apart on border security issues. And I am optimistic we will conclude this on time, but concerned. As you said, it'll be a very busy week.
Senator, I want to pick your brain a little bit on that issue of the border security bill. That there was a bill that was agreed to in the Senate. It passed the Senate, essentially DOA in the House. Where do you see any possibility of, on this issue of border security, there being any possibility for any agreement?
Well, look, at the end of the day, former President Trump made it blindingly clear he wants an issue, not a solution. And what I hear from folks at home in Delaware, what I hear across the country is that Americans want us to solve our current border security challenges. President Biden, in a strong and stirring State of the Union speech, made it clear he's willing to work across the aisle to solve this. He actually challenged former President Trump to work with him to get the bipartisan negotiated border security package that was defeated here in the Senate, really solely because former President Trump turned on it at the last minute. To support that and move it forward, it would provide billions of dollars to improve border security by putting in place more screening technology that would interdict fentanyl, by hiring thousands of Border Patrol agents, by shortening the review time for asylum claims. It was a tough and hard-fought negotiation, but frankly, we've got the package right in front of us to take up and pass. I also, just to follow up on your point there, the bill that we did pass by 70 votes and sent to the House would provide critically needed funding for Ukraine. As month after month goes by without resupply to the Ukrainian troops in the depths of winter on the front lines against Russian troops, I'm very worried we're going to see them begin to lose territory significantly. There are more than 300 votes in the House for that bill if the Speaker will let it go to the floor. I am optimistic that we will see the appropriations package come together this week, but I am hopeful that the Speaker will see the wisdom of adding this to that and moving them both at the end of this week.
And Senator, your colleague, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, gave a major speech last week in which he says things need to change in Israel, calling for a new election there. Prime Minister of that country responding by saying Schumer's comments were totally inappropriate. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, if you listen to the entire speech, it was a very long and thoughtful and thorough speech, nearly 40 minutes. Most folks who are hearing about it are just hearing that one sentence and the exchange between Senator Schumer and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Senator Schumer's been a lifelong, passionate supporter of the State of Israel. A core piece of his message was that for the security of Israel going forward, there needs to be a credible path to a two-state solution. And Prime Minister Netanyahu depends for his government on two very far-right ministers, Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, who are steadfastly opposed to a two-state solution. A core part of Senator Schumer's message was that after October 7th, it's urgent that the people of Israel have an opportunity to be heard and to be participants in an election that would form a new government. Whether that's a government led by Prime Minister Netanyahu or others is up to the electorate of Israel. But this is a shattering change in Israelis' understanding of their security, the October 7th attack by Hamas. I did not understand Senator Schumer to say that they should stop fighting Hamas or that in any way Israel doesn't have a right, even an obligation, to defend its civilians. So I think his remarks have been mischaracterized some by Prime Minister Netanyahu on the issue of going into Rafah against the remaining Hamas battalions there. I personally have said to Prime Minister Netanyahu, as have many others, you can and should continue your war against Hamas, but you have to provide for civilian security. You have to provide for humanitarian relief. And that means he can't go in at scale with a full-on ground assault without providing for safety and security for the million Palestinian refugees currently in Rafah. That's caused a bit of a point of tension between many of us here in Congress, including Senator Schumer and Prime Minister Netanyahu and his government.
And Senator, much closer to home, there is a crisis situation in Haiti. There is effectively no government there. Gangs control much of the capital. And just yesterday, Senator, I know you know this, we saw huge protests in Cuba calling for freedom. This is a people that have been living for 63 years under totalitarianism. Do you have any thoughts on how we can help the people of Haiti and the people of Cuba?
Well, thank you for those questions, Jose. These are really important countries in our region. The Cuban people continue to suffer and struggle under a repressive authoritarian regime. And it's important that we, the United States, continue to be understood as an advocate for freedom and for democracy. In Haiti, the collapse of government, the resignation now by former Prime Minister Henry, makes it even more urgent that there be a multinational stabilization force. I've engaged in that effort to encourage the Kenyans to deploy well-trained and vetted police as part of a multinational force to restore some stability. Our State Department is now evacuating U.S. nationals from Haiti as the security condition continues to worsen. This makes it even more urgent, Jose, that we reach a conclusion on our Homeland Security bill, because when there is this level of suffering, this level of repression in Cuba or Haiti, historically, we've seen tens of thousands of people take to the sea in flimsy boats and risk their lives trying to come to the United States. We should do our best to stabilize situations in these countries and, in particular, to stabilize the conditions in Haiti so that the people there don't continue to suffer through gang violence.
Senator Chris Coons, it's always a pleasure to have you on. I really appreciate your voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose.
Up next.